Welcome to everyone joining us from around the globe. Whether you are tuning in from Manila, Melbourne, New York, or London, you have arrived at the epicenter of the tennis world right now. We are live. We are witnessing history, heartbreak, and absolute hysteria down under. This is the update you've been waiting for. This is the moment the entire tennis community has been holding its breath to dissect. We are talking about the Australian Open 2026. We are talking about Day 2. But more importantly, we are talking about a specific coordinate in the tennis universe that, for nearly 2 hours today, became the most important piece of real estate in global sports. I am talking about Court 6 at Melbourne Park. If you looked at the schedule yesterday, you might have seen Alexandra Eala versus Alycia Parks and thought, that's a solid first-round match. You might have looked at the rankings, Eala at a career-high number 49, Parks fighting back at number 99, and thought, okay, the rising star from the Philippines should take this. But what unfolded today was not just a tennis match. It was a cultural phenomenon. It was a collision of atmospheric pressure, psychological warfare, and raw, unbridled kinetic energy that has left the entire tennis world in a state of absolute shock. The headline is simple, but the story is infinitely complex. Entire tennis world shocked. Why? Because for 34 minutes, we thought we were watching a coronation. We thought we were watching the inevitable march of Alexandra Eala, the woman who stunned IGA Swiatek in Miami last year, the woman who carries the hopes of an entire archipelago on her racket. We thought we were watching her tear through the draw. She won the first set 6-love. A bagel, a donut, absolute perfection. And then the script flipped, the narrative shattered. We are here to talk about the fight for the future. And that is exactly what we saw. We saw two versions of the future of women's tennis collide. On one side, the precision, the lefty grit, and the massive, overwhelming, stadium-shaking support for Alex Eala. On the other side, the raw power, the volatile serve, and the steely, almost frightening resilience of Alycia Parks. Today, the unexpected happened. Alycia Parks, down 6-love, playing against a crowd that was so loud, so partisan, and so electrified that it felt more like a World Cup football match than a Grand Slam tennis opener, found a way to survive. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She dug into a reserve of mental fortitude that we haven't seen from her in months, maybe years, and she turned the tide to take this match in 3 sets, 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. But do not let that scoreline deceive you. This wasn't just a win and a loss. This was a spectacle that defines what the 2026 season is going to be about. Think about the context here. Alexandra Eala came into this tournament not just as a player, but as a movement. We have seen the videos. We have seen the cues. The line to get into Court 6 today stretched all the way back to the Rod Laver Arena adjacent concourse. Thousands of fans, draped in the red, blue, and yellow of the Philippine flag, chanting Alex, Alex, before a single ball was hit. It was a football-style atmosphere in the truest sense. Security guards, dozens of them, had to flank the court just to manage the overflow. For the first 30 minutes, Eala fed off that energy like a supernova. She was untouchable. She was moving Parks around the court, exposing the movement issues, hitting winners at will. Parks looked lost. She looked like she was drowning in the noise. To lose a first set 6-love in a Grand Slam is demoralizing. To do it when thousands of people are cheering your every mistake, that is usually a death sentence for a player's confidence. And that is where the shock comes in. That is where the fight for the future truly began. Because Alycia Parks, the American who has had such a roller coaster career, rising to the top 50, falling out of the top 100, struggling for consistency, she decided that today was not going to be the day she folded. She decided to embrace the villain role. She laughed at the crowd. She told the press later, "It definitely puts a fire on me." We're going to dive deep into how she did it. We're going to break down the technical shift in the second set, the 12 aces, the aggressive serve placement that silenced the party court. We're going to look at the psychology of Alex Eala, a 20-year-old superstar in the making, who admitted afterwards that the moment was heartwarming but also overwhelming. This is a story of pressure. On one hand, you have Eala. Imagine the weight on her shoulders. She is the only Filipina in the draw. She is the only Filipina to ever be in this position at this level of consistency. She broke the top 50. She made the semis in Miami. She is a national icon. Every point she plays is scrutinized by millions. Today, she confessed that even her practice sessions were mobbed. She couldn't walk anywhere without security. When she walked onto court 6, it wasn't just a match. It was a national event. And for one set, she carried that weight perfectly. But tennis is a cruel sport. It demands sustained perfection. And when the momentum shifted, when Parks started hitting those bombs on the serve, the weight of that expectation, the overwhelming nature of the love she receives, became a factor. On the other hand, you have Parks. No one expected her to win after that first set. The betting markets crashed on her. The commentators were writing the eulogy for her Australian Open 2026 campaign. She had zero momentum, and yet she found the zone. That elusive state of mind where the noise fades away, with a crowd cheering your unforced errors, which is a taboo in tennis, by the way, but happened repeatedly today, doesn't make you angry. It makes you dangerous. This match is a microcosm of the 2026 WTA Tour. It's unpredictable, it's fierce, and it shows that rankings 49 versus 99 mean absolutely nothing when the pressure cooker is turned on. We're going to analyze the bagel set, how Eala dismantled Parks. We're going to analyze the turnaround, how Parks used her power to break the rhythm. We're going to talk about the crowd. Was it too much? Did it actually hurt Eala in the end by ramping up the pressure? And we're going to look at what this means for the rest of the tournament. Alycia Parks now moves on to face the 19th seed, Karolina Muchova. A huge test, but after surviving the cauldron of court 6, she might just be ready for anything. And for Eala, this is a stumbling block. Yes, but it is also a vital lesson. The headline says shocked, and we are shocked by the result because of how the match started. But if you look closer, this is part of the fight for the future. The future isn't a straight line up. It's a jagged climb. Today, Eala slipped. Today, Parks climbed. So buckle up. We are about to go point by point, quote by quote, and emotion by emotion through one of the most dramatic first-round encounters we have seen in Melbourne in years. This is not just a match recap. This is a dissection of a moment that will be talked about for the rest of the season. The entire tennis world is watching. The Filipino fans are still processing. The American fans are celebrating a comeback for the ages. And we are here to make sense of it all. Let's take a deep breath. Let's reset the scoreboard to 0-0. And let's dive into the main analysis of Alexandra Eala versus Alycia Parks, the fight for the future. To truly understand the magnitude of what happened on court 6 today, we have to rewind the clock. We have to understand who these two women were before they stepped onto the hard court this Monday morning, January 19th, 2026. Let's start with Alexandra Eala. If you have been following the tour over the last 12 months, you know that 2025 was her breakout year. This wasn't just a gradual rise. It was an explosion. She started 2025 outside the top 100, grinding in the qualifiers. By the end of the year, she was a top 50 player. The highlight, without a doubt, was that run in Miami, a WTA 1000 event. She didn't just show up, she arrived. She beat Madison Keys. And then, the match that put her on the global map, she took down the world number 2, IGA Swiatek. That win signaled to everyone that Eala wasn't just a prospect, she was a contender. She followed that up with a final appearance in Eastbourne on grass, showing her versatility, and then her first Grand Slam main draw win at the U.S. Open against Clara Towson. Coming into Melbourne, Eala was ranked 49th. She had the hype, she had the momentum, and she had the Philippines behind her. We cannot overstate this factor. In the world of tennis, fan bases are usually polite. They clap for winners. They groan for errors. But the support Eala receives is different. It is visceral. It is nationalistic in the best possible way. It turns individual sport into a team sport. On the other side of the net, we had Alycia Parks. The 25-year-old American has been an enigma. We know she has one of the biggest serves on tour. When her game is on, she can hit anyone off the court. We saw flashes of it in 2023 and 2024. But 2025 was tough for her. She struggled with consistency. She had losing streaks. She dropped to world number 99. She came into this match as the underdog, not just on paper, but in terms of form, the atmosphere, court 6 chaos. So the stage is set. Melbourne Park. Day 2. The organizers scheduled the match on court 6. Now, court 6 is known as a party court. It's intimate. It has a bar overlooking the sideline, and the fans are right on top of the action. This was a massive miscalculation by the organizers, or perhaps a stroke of genius, depending on how you view it. They put the most popular player you've never heard of, if you're a casual fan, on a small court. The result? Chaos. Reports from the ground described an insane queue. People were lined up for hours. When the gates opened, it was a stampede. Every seat was filled. The aisles were packed. Outside the court, hundreds of fans who couldn't get in were watching on big screens, chanting. Inside, the Philippine flags were everywhere. It was a sea of red, blue, and yellow. When Eala walked out, the roar was deafening. When Parks walked out, she was walking into the lion's den. The match begins, and for the first 34 minutes, it looked like Alycia Parks had forgotten how to play tennis. Or rather, it looked like Alexandra Eala had solved the game. The scoreline says 6-0. That is a bagel. In professional tennis, a bagel is a humiliation. But it wasn't just the score, it was the manner of it. Eala was electric. She was seeing the ball like a melon. Her lefty forehand was finding angles that Parks simply couldn't cover. Parks, meanwhile, was a disaster of unforced errors. She couldn't find the court. She was overhitting. She was double faulting. And the crowd? The crowd was merciless. Every time Parks missed a serve, there was a cheer. Every time she hit a ball long, there was a roar. There was a moment in the first set, around the 3-0 mark, where Parks looked up at her box and just shook her head. She looked rattled. The sheer volume of noise was disorienting. Eala was feeding off it. She was pumping her fist, engaging with the fans. She was playing perfect, high-percentage tennis, letting Parks implode. Eala won 24 of the 35 points played in that first set. It was a massacre. The commentators were already talking about who Eala would play in the second round. The fans were already celebrating. It felt over, but this is why we love tennis. It is a sport of isolated compartments. When the umpire calls game, first set, Eala, the slate is wiped clean. You start from 0. The second set began, and something changed in Alycia Parks' body language. She stopped looking at the crowd. She stopped shaking her head. She put her head down, adjusted her visor, and decided to just serve. This is the weapon that saved her. Parks is a cannon of a serve. In the first set, it was misfiring. In the second set, she found the range. She started hitting spots. Wide body. She racked up aces. She would end the match with 12 of them. Suddenly, Eala wasn't getting free points. Suddenly, Eala was on her back foot. Parks broke early to go up 3-0. Now, Eala showed her grit. She fought back. She broke back. She leveled the set at 3-3. The crowd went absolutely berserk. The "Let's go, Alex" chants were shaking the cameras. At 3-3, it felt like Eala had weathered the storm and was about to take control again. But this is where the match was decided. At 3-3, Parks didn't fold. She held serve with authority. And then, at 4-3, she attacked. She started crushing returns. She stepped into the court. She took time away from Eala. She broke Eala to go up 5-3, and then serve out the set 6-3. The dynamic had shifted. Eala was no longer the aggressor. She was a defender. Parks was dictating play. And the crowd, while still loud, had a different tone. The cheers were more desperate. The anxiety was creeping in. We go to decider. One set for a spot in the second round. The momentum was fully with the American. She broke early again, going up 2-0. Eala looked exhausted, not physically, but mentally. The burden of the occasion, the overwhelming nature of the support, seemed to be heavy. But Eala is a fighter. She is an Nadal Academy graduate. You don't train in Mallorca without learning how to suffer. She broke back. She fought for every point. There were rallies in this third set that were world-class. 20-shot exchanges corner to corner. However, Parks had the fire. She mentioned in her post-match interview, "I don't know what my record is with crowds against me, but it definitely puts a fire on me." She was channeling the hostility. She was using it as fuel. At 2-2 in the third, Parks broke again. And this time, she didn't look back. She held for a 4-2. She broke again for 5-2. Serving for the match at 5-2, the drama peaked. Eala saved 2 match points. The crowd was screaming, trying to a one last comeback. On 1 match point, Parks double faulted and the crowd cheered loudly. It was a breach of etiquette, but it showed the desperation. But Parks stayed cool. She stayed in the zone. On the 3rd match point, she hit a heavy serve. Eala's return floated, and Parks put away the winner. Game, set, match, Parks. The scene at the handshake was respectful, but the contrast was stark. Parks let out a roar of relief. Eala looked devastated. In the press conference, we got the real story. Alycia Parks was candid. She said, "It was very difficult. I was expecting it, but I wasn't. She definitely has a good crowd. I just kept telling myself to stay in the zone." Think about that phrase, stay in the zone. It sounds cliche, but in an environment that hostile, it is a supreme mental achievement. To block out thousands of people screaming for your failure and focus on a yellow fuzzy ball, that is elite athleticism. And then, hear Alexandra Eala. She was gracious, as always. She called the support heartwarming. She said, "I felt so loved." But she also admitted the truth. It's a process to take it all in. There were elements that were a bit overwhelming. She talked about the pressure being the only Filipina. She said, "I hope the support continues with the losses along with the wins." That is a profound statement from a 20-year-old. She is acknowledging that this level of fame is a double-edged sword. It lifts you up, but it can also crush you if you aren't careful. Today, it might have been a bit too heavy. Statistical breakdown. Let's look at the numbers because they tell the story of the turnaround. Aces, Parks 12, Eala 1. That is the difference. Free points. When Parks was in trouble in the second and third sets, she could hit an ace. Eala had to work for every single point. First serve percentage. Parks started around 40% in the first set, but raised it to nearly 70% in the decider. Unforced errors. Parks cleaned hers up significantly. Eala's error count crept up as she was forced to go for more risky shots to counter Parks' power. What this means for the tournament. Alycia Parks advances. She plays Karolina Muchova next. Muchova is a seed, a tactician, a completely different player from Eala. But Parks will go into that match with sky-high confidence. She just survived a hostile environment and a bagel. She feels invincible. For Eala, the Australian Open ends on day 2. It's a bitter pill. But her ranking of 49 is safer now. She has the game. What she needs now is to normalize this experience. She needs to get used to the chaos so that next time it doesn't feel overwhelming. It just feels like home. So where does this leave us? As we wrap up our coverage of this electrifying match, we have to look at the bigger picture. The title of this segment is The Fight for the Future. And today, the future showed us its complexity. We often want sports to be linear. We want the rising star to win the first round, then the second, then the title. We wanted the fairy tale of Alexandra Eala, backed by the millions of Filipino fans, to conquer Melbourne Park on her debut. But real sport, brutal, high-stakes professional tennis, doesn't care about fairy tales. It cares about who can put the ball on the court when the heart rate is at 180 and the crowd is screaming. Today, that person was Alycia Parks. This match was a reminder of the depth of the WTA Tour. You have a player ranked 99 in the world who can take a 6-0 punch to the face and come back to knock out a top 50 rising star. That tells you that there are no easy matches in Grand Slams. Every single round is a war. For Alycia Parks, this could be the catalyst for a return to the top. She has the weapons. We saw the serve today. It is a weapon of mass destruction when it lands. If she can harness the mental resilience she showed today, that ability to block out the noise and stay in the zone. She is a danger to anyone in this draw. Karolina Machova should be on high alert. For Alexandra Eala, the queen of the Court 6 party, this is a growing pain. But let's be clear, this is not a failure of talent. It is a lesson in management, managing expectations, managing nerves, managing the sheer weight of representation. She is 20 years old. She is carrying a flag and a nation. Today, she buckled slightly under that weight in the final 2 sets. But muscle grows back stronger after tears. Eala will watch this tape. She will see where she let Parks back in. She will see where she played too passively in the second set, and she will come back. The images of the Filipino fans waiting in line, the flags waving, the passion, that is not going away. Eala has awakened a sleeping giant of a fan base. The tour needs this. Tennis needs this energy. And as Eala matures, as she learns to channel that energy rather than be overwhelmed by it, she will become a force of nature. The Australian Open marches on. We have 2 weeks of tennis left. We will see upsets, we will see champions fall, and we will see new stars born. But I suspect when we look back at the first round of the 2026 Australian Open, we will remember the Battle of Court 6. We will remember the bagel. We will remember the comeback. And we will remember the noise. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. The season is just getting started. The fight for the future is alive and well. Next step for you. If you enjoyed this breakdown, I can create a similar deep dive script for the upcoming Karolina Machova versus Alycia Parks second-round match preview, analyzing their head-to-head styles and predicting whether Parks can pull off another upset. Would you like me to do that?